Hey guys. All right, so tonight is the NHL draft, so I figured what better talk about than NHL expansion. We just saw it on Wednesday night. The NHL expanded to its 31st team, the Las Vegas Golden Knights. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through what expansion was the last time they did it and what expansion was this time they did it. So, the last time the NHL expanded was in 2000. They went from 28 teams to 30 teams. The two teams that were introduced were the Columbus Blue Jackets and the Minnesota Wild. Um, why it's important is Gary Bettman, the commissioner of the NHL, thought it was extremely important to get a team back into Minnesota. 7 years prior, they had lost the Minnesota North Stars. And hockey in the U.S., in some of the states, obviously is not as popular as in Canada, but in Minnesota, because it's a northern state, hockey's pretty prevalent. So getting a team back in there was a pretty big coup for him and an agenda thing he wanted to table. So he was able to do that. The problem with it was how they went about it. So the NHL allowed teams, they had an expansion draft and allowed teams to protect their players, but they allowed them to protect too many players. They gave them two options, was two goalies or three goalies, three defensemen or five defensemen, nine forwards or seven forwards. And what that did is it allowed all the teams to really protect basically all of their good players. Um, and so the talent pool that the two expansion teams were selecting from was pretty poor, and the fact that there was two of them even made it even poorer because you were selecting, there was two teams to pick from, so they had to have that many extra players. The cost of the franchises is an interesting aspect. It cost $80 million at that time to buy in for an expansion franchise. I'll tell you later what Vegas paid, and we'll figure out why that's important. So, because of the way the NHL had set it up, it took almost 7 years for Columbus to be um, competitive, whereas Minnesota, it took them only 3 years. Within 3 years, they were vying for a Stanley Cup, but more because ownership was willing to pay for free agents to come there um, to make them a success. So, I mean, looking at it, neither team really lived up to the hype of the 2000 expansion. So what we do now is we fast forward 17 years. The NHL expanded one more time. This time only letting one team in, which is an interesting aspect. The Las Vegas Golden Knights. They cost $500 million this time around. The league revenues in 2000s were 1.8 billion, and now they top $5 billion a year. So the NHL's popularity and growth has been record setting over this last period. And they realize that Vegas is an exceptional market. Vegas, the Las Vegas Golden Knights are the first pro team to go there, so they have the chance to capture the hearts and minds of their fans. And the NHL realizes how important it is, so they want to kind of ensure some success, some early success. So what they did is, again, there was an expansion draft. They changed the format, allowing teams to protect less players this time around, increasing the talent pool to Vegas, what Vegas had to pick from, and only allowing one team in this time. So Vegas kind of had the cream of the crop. The other interesting thing they did is they allowed Vegas a private window. So what the NHL did is they did a trade freeze. Saturday at 3 p.m., they froze any team from making any trades or deals with each other. The only team that could deal was the Vegas Golden Knights, allowing them to have power that no other expansion franchise has ever had. And what the GM, George McPhee, did is he called up to all the NHL teams and said, basically, I'm going to take, you've exposed some of your young talent. If you want to keep that talent, it's going to cost you draft picks. We want to be competitive long term, so I need draft picks. So if you want to protect them, pay up. There were a few people that thought this strategy wouldn't work. It actually worked very well for him. He was able to secure three first round draft picks plus a glutton of other picks over the next 3 years. Most teams only get one first round draft pick. He already has three. So we'll see what happens tonight with the NHL draft and what they pick. But I mean, for the most part, he set himself to have a pretty good start drafting wise. From a team perspective, the team was picked. And arguably the talent pool was very high. They are probably going to be the most successful expansion franchise we've seen so far in all the NHL expansions. Um, it could be argued that the NHL stacked the deck a little bit, allowing them this trade freeze. The less players teams had to protect to kind of ensure that success. Paying $500 million for a team, the owner probably expected something from the NHL for paying that kind of money. And the interesting part is in the future. I mean, we're gonna only time will tell if Vegas is going to be a boom or a bust. But I could argue that early success for them is probably going to be better than any expansion franchise we've ever seen. And the interesting part is the next round of expansion, when that's supposed to happen in the next 3 or 4 years, what that looks like. So I guess we'll see. Only time will tell. And I hope you guys watch the draft. Have a great day. Take care.